What is up, boxing besties? Welcome back to Xicana Boxing on YouTube. I'm super excited for this fight week, the last Crescendo, Beterbiev versus Bivol. Honestly, I know everybody's calling this card one of the best cards of the century, and I'm not gonna sit here and argue that, but I'm really just thankful that it took forever for us to even just get the first undisputed match at 175, and now we're getting the immediate rematch. It did take Turkey Sheik sponsoring to come in, some mediation for him to come in and get these promoters working together. But I'm just so happy that we get this like cherry on top of this badass cake of fights this Saturday. So before I get too ahead of myself, hi, if this is your first time, my name's Lily. I am an independent boxing journalist who sometimes gets on here to yap about whatever's going on in boxing, fights that I covered for a previous weekend, fights I'm gonna cover in the next weekend, or just anything that's relevant in boxing. But if you don't like the yapping, I don't blame you. I still do got exclusive content and interviews, fight week, and fight night shenanigans for the fights that I cover. So if you do enjoy that, please go ahead and subscribe. And we can all become boxing besties, especially if you are a yapper. Then you can yap in the comments, and I will do better. What is going on with my camera? But anyway, let's talk and dissect the card. But for all the people wondering where you can watch, because not everybody streams, I'm talking to you. But for those wondering where you can buy the pay-per-view, DAZN pay-per-view, ppv.com, TNT Sports, Sky Sports, you got options, right, to be able to watch this pay-per-view. And I believe it's $26. So Turkey Sheik is making this fight accessible for those who do plan on purchasing and supporting the card with monies. This is also a card from Saudi Arabia, which means, we're all used to it by now. These are earlier cards. If you're in Eastern time, I believe it starts at 11. And if you are Pacific Standard Time like myself, it's an 8 a.m. I know a lot of people are like, I don't want to wake up early on a Saturday, but this card is worth it. Get up, hasta un menudito, or like get yourself a little coffee, or if you want to spike things up, do that as well. But this is a card that you do want to be up since the start of the card. But yes, let's start dissecting the card with the main event, because what's crazy is that, I see that a lot of people in the first fight were saying that Bivol deserved it, right? That Bivol should have appointed Beterbiev on the scorecards because he controlled the pace. I felt that he controlled the pace. I felt that he had, the most effective punches on Beterbiev. But I'm seeing, at least on what I'm seeing on my side of the interwebs, is that a lot of people still feel like Beterbiev is going to get the rematch because they feel like they've seen what Bivol was going to do, and Bivol has been vocal about not necessarily changing his signature approach and knowing that he can, out punch, and survive Beterbiev because he did it once, and he's not necessarily going to change his style, right? There's not really a sense of urgency there on his side, especially not against a power puncher like Beterbiev. So a lot of fans feel like he gave what he can do, but we never really saw Beterbiev get into that, like killer instinct mode that he usually goes on, right? He was pretty mellow. I think that's what maybe people felt that Bivol took it the first time, because we didn't get to see him get on that third gear, get on that, like super offensive mode, trying to batter Bivol really in any approach, and that maybe he just respected Bivol's power as well. But a lot of people, what I've noticed, shifted in the way that they know that the last thing to leave is power in a fighter. And Beterbiev, even though he's old and he's aged a bit, right, and with injuries, the sorry, I have ADHD and I have to say this. There was this tweet I saw where someone was like, "This is the type of workouts Beterbiev does," and then wonders why he gets injured. And it's like it's true, right? But we know the Russians and Ukrainians, they do all sorts of crazy things in the gym. But back to topic. Um, the power's still there, right? The power is still there, and we did see that in the last round, especially Bivol did look a little uncomfortable, right? When Beterbiev did try to apply that pressure. So if it doesn't start over with them feeling each other out, then we do have the possibility they're going to straight to clash. And if that's the case, and we get to see Beterbiev be like, well, I already know what you can bring, and you're not going to really do anything else. Let me test out my next gear and see what I can do. And I do see maybe that being the case, when most people feel like Beterbiev is going to win this time, with some people have been claiming he is going to be able to put Bivol away this time, because Bivol is also aged at this point and he's, gotten, I guess, more comfortable. This is just stuff that I see on the internet, guys. I'll give my predictions at the end. In the meanwhile, you guys can let me know in the comments who you guys got picking while I go through the undercard. Anyway, let's get to the undercard, because we have heavyweights Joseph Parker challenging Daniel Dubois, who got the belt from Anthony Joshua in devastating fashion. And Daniel Dubois is just one of those funny guys, right, who outside the ring wears suits to the press conferences and is really goofy and awkward, when he's interacting with media and just his peers, it seems. But in the ring, he still goes in there and he got that dog in him, right? A lot of people feel like he hurt Usyk, right? And that deserved to be a legit knockout or knockdown as opposed to a low blow. But Daniel Dubois has, regardless of his loss, the loss in his record, he's shown that he can bring it in the heavyweights and make for some great fights. And Joseph Parker is coming off of beating Deontay Wilder, which I think, a lot of people do give him credit for, but also recognize that Deontay Wilder may be, washed. But regardless, Parker does have also a good style where he is more defensive and more tactical, but he will go in there and also bang. He's not going to shy away from trading, especially with someone with a style like Daniel Dubois. And I think this fight's really exciting. As a co-main, and of course, it's heavyweights are going to take... they're going to take, priority over the majority of the card. So I don't mind it being second, if it is second according to this poster. Then we have Shakur Stevenson, who took some criticism for taking on this challenge of Floyd Schofield, who called him out, basically had been calling him out before very publicly. But even after the fight where Floyd Schofield got, dropped in his fight, and he ended up coming back and winning the fight anyway. But it was a really fun fight. And a lot of people are still saying he's too green for a contender at the top, let alone a champion like Shakur Stevenson, right? But Shakur Stevenson's just one of those guys that's like, hey, this kid is calling me out. Let me show him what it's like. Let me show him what it's like in the big leagues, so that he can see that it's like, you can't hang with people like me. And I do feel like Floyd Schofield has nothing really to lose in this fight, and neither does Keyshawn. So neither does. I'm still thinking about Keyshawn from this weekend's fight. Shout out to Keyshawn for becoming champ. Shakur, right? So I think neither does Shakur. Shakur's in my, I think knows that he's confident in his ability, that he's going to outclass the younger fighter, right? But I do feel like he has the opportunity to show just what he can do, what he can try to do against someone like Shakur, right? And Shakur got also the opportunity to just do what he always does and outclass his opponents. But maybe this time he can know that this guy is green and maybe try to put a little bit more pressure in there. So I am hoping that he shows up for this type of card that, has a name such as like one of the best of the century, and really does try to also give us a good fight like Keyshawn did. Next, we have Carlos Adames versus Hamza Sheeraz. And like, what I remember seeing last week is that like Adames was like not being let into Saudi Arabia because apparently like their dates were wrong on like when they were needed to be in the country, and embassies and shit like that, like they're very much strict on like the dates you put on for travel if you're just going into a country for visiting or for a certain period of time. We were not asking for like citizenship or residency or things like that. So that is something that it's an oopsie, that type of stuff that would be happening to me. But I do feel like things are okay. They haven't called it off, so I do feel like that things are okay, other than Turki Al-Sheikh already trying to get Canelo to fight Hamza, even though he hasn't even gotten past Bronco yet. But they're very confident that he will, right? He's gone. We've gotten very familiar with Hamza Sheeraz since he been in the Riyadh card, since Riyadh season's been involved in boxing. We did get familiar with Hamza Sheeraz. Has had some really cool, exciting knockouts, and it's cool that he's getting this opportunity against a champ, but also, goddamn, finally we get a good freaking fight at 160 with both guys are like, like they both have equal like abilities where I think a lot of people feel like Adames um brings in the more tactical ability, right? If his fights have gone the distance, and he's kind of more of a guy that will pressure you, but not necessarily be hurting you the entire time. And next, I think this is the fight that I'm most excited about, and I think this is the fight that I've seen the most buzz about besides the main event. Virgil versus Madrimov. My God, like, I remember one time I saw Virgil tweet that he was in math class, right? This was right when, after his rhabdo diagnosis that a lot of people were claiming was him just being quote unquote fat or too big for his weight or being a weight bully. Like, this kid was back in school, in math class, in college, and now he's, I don't, he took Boachuk, what a lot of people feel like, was controversial, but the fact that, he did that and then goes to Madrimov, to me, like, you gotta respect that. And I do. I respect the heck out of Virgil Ortiz and the type of fighter that he is, the type of work that he puts in the gym. I've been fortunate to visit his camp a couple times, and the kid puts in work, and he never says no to a fight. So I'm super, super excited to watch him. But this fight against Madrimov, like, people know that, Eastern European, Russian fighters, like, everything that used to be the Soviet Union, basically, those guys are not the easiest guys, and not the guys you're like jumping in from, jumping up joy to get in the ring with. A lot of them are very tactical, but a lot of them also got a lot of power. And I remember Madrimov, even though, he maybe didn't necessarily live up to the super mega hype that they were trying to claim him to be the new Triple G back when he was first in the first Matchroom cards, right? They were saying that he would beat Charlo and all these things, right? But he did give Crawford a run for his money. He did become champ, the normal way. He's a champion. He was a valid champion. So I do feel like Madrimov is still a top guy in the division, regardless of losing his fight to Terence Crawford, because it's fucking Terence Crawford. So for Virgil to get, criticized by some because they feel he lost to someone with a similar style to Madrimov, just busier and more pressure, I feel like for him to go ahead and take the Madrimov fight, no questions asked, I think that's so freaking crazy. And the fact that, yes, Virgil has had some adversity in his last fights and inactivity, that's what makes people doubt him as a favorite for the first time in a long time, right? So I think this fight is so intriguing because of that, because both these guys, regardless of, Madrimov losing against Crawford and Virgil facing adversity in his last fight, it is as 50-50 as it gets. And both guys are trying to prove something, right? So it's one of those fights that, like, steals the card, in my opinion. I have no doubt in my heart that this fight will steal the card. Like, the other guys are gonna have to, like, put on a tremendous freaking knockout victory for it, in my opinion, to top this fight. That is just my prediction for this fight. We have Joshua Buatsi versus Caleb Smith. And we know Caleb Smith, lost to Canelo, but before that, he was very much celebrated on his side of the pond. He won some very important, I think, Groves, right? He beat him. He was just, a really well-recognized champ in the UK up until Canelo made his arm look like a freaking baseball was growing out of it. And this fight is a light heavyweight, and the winner will be basically, in the line for the winner of Beterbiev versus Bivol. We all want Benavides, though. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm sorry, Buatsi and the other guy, but no. Like, no. We want Benavides for the winner, because if Bivol wins, it's going to be a trilogy. Turkey Alashik already said that. And if Beterbiev wins, they're going to go to Benavides. And I'm pretty sure with Benavides having good standing with everybody, like, Turkey could also be like, hey, hold up, let's not do a 3, let's go with Benavides type stuff. So Benavides, I think, has got the dibs, right? Should get the dibs. But these guys, basically, whoever wins from these two is going to get a chance at at them. And I don't know, like, I'm not really familiar with either guy, so I'm sorry about this one. I don't want to just pretend like I do. You know, I would never steer you guys that way. And last but not least, especially if this is the fight that's opening up the card, like, oh my god, Zhang versus Agate, right? Kabayel, another guy that we've seen in this cards, in this other side of the pond type cards. I am familiar with him, not as much as I'm familiar with Zhang, right? Because, oh my god, Zhang did Wilder. I'm still traumatized from how Zhang did Wilder. So I think, you know, and just the knockouts that Zhang's been getting, and, you know, how he's just basically, we can get audio clips out of him. He's very charismatic, very funny. I'm really excited to see him in this fight against Agate, who again is one of the other guys out of the pond. And both these guys, very promising. All these fights are basically, you know, very close 50-50 type matches, if not like 60-40 type stuff, right? So this is why it's one of the good cards. But let's just get to my predictions, because I'm not familiar too much with basically the opposition for Zhang or, you know, the guy fighting Caitlin Smith, to be honest. So main event time, okay? So let's see. Beterbiev versus Bivol. I do feel like Beterbiev still got the power, and I do trust him to, you know, in his last fight, because what else is he gonna do? Like, maybe he does fight people, but I mean, Benavides, but I don't know. Maybe he, you know, he's like a mazapan. He's always breaking and things. So maybe he might not take the Benavides fight. He might retire. But even if he doesn't, and he knows these are some of his last fights, he's gonna try to go all. I think he's gonna try a little more, is what I'm saying. And will Bivol be able to take a little more, especially if it starts like around 13 as opposed to back on square one? Like, I think I'm gonna take Beterbiev more convincingly this time. But I don't know, Bivol's the type of guy that will literally jab you to death, and then that's it, and he wins, and he makes it look like he's just schooling you. So I don't know. Now, Daniel Dubois against Parker. Parker's a guy that could probably, you know, like, with his style, could outbox Daniel Dubois, but I don't know. I think Daniel Dubois right now is on a streak, and I think he has momentum, and he has charisma, and he's like, try me. And I know he's just gonna show up on Fight Week with a suit, and he's gonna, you know, be awkward, and I think he's going to be able to knock out Parker or stop him in the latest rounds. I do think it is going to be a fun fight. They're gonna be trading heavy like heavyweights do, but not in the early rounds. I think it's gonna like take a bit for them to kind of like, you know, get to the point. But once they do, I think our boy is going to retain his IBF title that he got, you know, even though this is funny to me that, like, my Lord and Savior Alexander Usyk was like, you know, I'll stop being undisputed so maybe Joshua can get a title, like, you know, like, here's my consolation prize to you. And then here comes our boy Daniel Dubois, and it's like, no, I don't think so. I love that for him. So I think just with the momentum and the fact that he's had better wins, in my opinion, than Joseph Parker, and in better fashion, I do feel like he's going to be retaining his belt and setting himself up maybe for a rematch with Usyk, which a lot of people feel like he legit knocked down with a body shot, right? Everybody says that. So run it back. This prediction, I think, is the same across most people that I know. I think they think Shakur Stevenson is going to be schooling Kid Austin, but maybe in like a Canelo versus Mayweather sort of way, where Kid Austin learns more, and hopefully, you know, they can squash whatever beef they had for some reason. A lot of people do feel like Kid Austin's dad talks a lot, right? But whose dad doesn't in these environments these days? Oh my god. So yeah, like, I just feel like Shakur Stevenson, this is a stay busy fight. He just came back from an injury, right? He was supposed to fight some UK guy, I don't know, who cares. But this fight, you know, it's good to be like, hey, you know, like, let me test myself out. And I do feel like he should please, Shakur, please give us a little something, please at least, like, try to, like, get some killer instinct, you know, like, try to do something to this kid. But I do feel like he will beat him. Like, he's going to beat him. Now, Carlos Adames and Hamza Sheeraz is like, this fight is hard to predict because Sheeraz has been looking great, right? Like he's been looking good. He's tall as heck, in my opinion, from what I see. I never seen him in person, but he looks tall. Wait, have I seen him in person? No. But he looks tall, right? He has good power, great reach, and Bronco is more of a, like, he's not the type of guy that's going to put himself at risk to hurt you, if that makes any sense, right? Like he's not gonna do that. He's not gonna be trying to like punch you out. His fight with Terrell Gaucher, which was like super mild, like I'm just like, well, you guys both already tested each other out. Why didn't you, like, Adames, why didn't you just go for it, right? So to me, it was just like, oh, he's just so mild. And for that reason, I think Hamza could possibly overwhelm him, and especially with the longer reach, and being taller. I feel like if he can play his cards right, he shouldn't need to really get close to Adames, right? And Adames not, unless Adames like just really coming at him for reals this time, like, and he takes the opportunity. But also Hamza's just not as proven on outside of those cards, right? So I don't know. I'm telling you, these cards are crazy. I'm just gonna go with Bronco because of his, veteran status, even though Hamza could very much take it. Same with Virgil versus Madrimov. Like, the thing with Virgil is that, like, the inactivity, right? The inactivity, the fact that he was inactive for so long and then came back. And even though he had, some recognizable names that he was fighting, it wasn't fights that really tested him, because it's not his fault that he's knocking these guys out in the first round, really. But I don't think that did a lot for him. I know I've seen him spar though in the gym, and he does get hard ass rounds. So I do feel that he should be fine by now, right? Like, he should be fine by now to be back to his 100%. He's at 154 now, and he's been in the division, so he should have been able to get, that rhabdo, any rhabdo stuff out of the way. Not that this is like some shit that goes away, but he should be able to be settled in, right? And every indication gives that he is. He's been vocal about the fact that he feels very much settled in to the division, right? But Madrimov, again, is one of those guys with a style that, even though he is tactical and has angles, he's there to also trade, right? And Virgil has that style where he will trade with you, and because he wants to knock you out and he knows that he has good power, he will take one or two punches that will catch him off balance, or that will catch him coming in and then drop him. Even if they're flash knockdowns, he debates them, right? So I do feel like both guys can taste the canvas in this fight. This fight is literally 50-50. I'm going to go with Virgil just because I seen him personally in camp, and he's got that dog in him. Not for this particular camp. I've been in previous camps, and when I go to Robert Garcia's gym, I see him when he's there for fight camps. But I just feel like he has that dog in him, and yes, maybe he'll be put down, but the way if he gets up, I think it's every time he gets up, he wants to prove something, and I do think he can catch Madrimov to the body. So I'm gonna go with Virgil to the body, but literally, I'm just saying that probably because I have a bias, because I've been around the team and I'm Mexican. I don't know, but 50-50. I can also see Madrimov just, jabbing. That jab is pretty underrated, but so is Virgil's. Virgil's jab is so underrated, really. I'm surprised he doesn't stick more behind it, because he loves to trade and he knows he got power. But both of their jabs, oh my god, this 50-50. I take everything back. I don't know what I'm saying. 50-50. Heart's going Virgil, though, for sure, Heart's going Virgil. Like I said, I don't know nothing about Buatsi. I don't know much about him. I've heard his name, but I don't remember, like, nothing is coming to my brain right now, right? So I'm just, I'm assuming it's a 50-50 fight. I'm familiar with Kalen because Canelo and all his, World Boxing Super Series wins. But I'm not sure about him in this division. Has he done well? I think he has done well, right? And yeah, I don't know about this one. I'm sorry. As for Zhang versus Kabayel, I'm going to go with Zhang just because it's Zhang and I like him. And I do think same thing. He's got that dog in him. He will bang you. And I do feel like he will bang Kabayel. I just believe him when he says that. So those are my predictions. But yeah, that is all from me. Let me know what you think in the comments, and go ahead and read my newsletter if you haven't already, and sign up for it through chicanaboxing.com, because I wrote about all this weekend's shenanigans. I covered Duarte versus Madueño ringside, and I wrote about Keyshawn Davis also. So go ahead and subscribe to that as well, and go to my website and do that through the link on the description, and follow me across all platforms, because I drop a lot of just short format content as well on TikTok and Instagram. So go ahead and follow me there. Also, if you're feeling parasocial. So yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.